Think about walking into a sterile doctor's office with a young child. You know, you got that crinkling paper on the exam table, the sharp smell of alcohol wipes, the nurse holding a little medical tray.
Right. It's a highly controlled clinical environment, which ironically makes our ancient human threat sensors just completely go off.
Exactly.
We feel like we are actively choosing to take a risk just by being there.
But then, I mean, cut to a couple hours later, you're sitting at a chaotic kitchen table, handing that exact same child a peanut butter sandwich and, like, the glass of cow's milk.
Yeah, the sun is shining, the dog is begging for crusts.
Right? It feels completely normal. It feels totally safe. Well, welcome to this deep dive, learner. Today, we are exploring why those two scenarios trigger entirely the wrong reactions in our brains.
We really are.
If you're joining us today, you are probably someone who loves getting past the emotional headlines, right?
Hmm.
You want to get down to the actual bedrock of a topic. And today, we have a genuinely fascinating piece of source material.
We do. We're looking at an incredibly detailed, medically sourced advice column response. It was written to someone named Looking for Perspective, whose sister is, well, she's terrified of vaccinating her kids.
Which is, understandable.
Totally. She's heard the scary stories, the rumors of severe reactions, and she is deeply worried about that whole too many, too soon narrative.
Yeah, and when you are a parent, your primary job is to protect your child. I mean, when you hear anecdotes about severe medical reactions, it is just a biological imperative to put your guard up.
It's just human nature.
Right. But our mission today is to step back from those anecdotes.
Yeah.
We're going to strip away the fear-based narratives and anchor this discussion purely in peer-reviewed population-level data.
Yeah, the actual math.
Exactly. We'll look at the mathematical reality of severe reactions, and we're going to dive into the true immunologic science behind the childhood vaccine schedule. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the most extreme fear parents have, which is anaphylaxis.
Right. So anaphylaxis is a rapid, potentially life-threatening allergic reaction. It requires immediate emergency treatment, usually with epinephrine.
Like an EpiPen.
Exactly. When parents tell a pediatrician they're afraid of a serious reaction to a vaccine, this is almost always the specific medical event they are picturing in their heads.
And to really understand this risk, we have to contextualize it because, well, human brains are famously bad at risk assessment.
Oh, we are terrible at it.
We really are. We fear what is unfamiliar or what feels unnatural. It's like being terrified of a shark attack but happily texting while driving on the freeway.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Right. A vaccine feels medical, and therefore our brains categorize it as risky. But eating a peanut butter sandwich feels every day and therefore safe. Let's look at the actual numbers from our source to contrast these two risks.
Let's do it.
Starting with the food allergies.
So according to a 2018 study in pediatrics, about 8% of U.S. children have food allergies.
Wow, 8%.
Yeah, that is roughly 6 million children.
6 million. I mean, that's a massive portion of the population walking around with a very real vulnerability to everyday grocery items.
Exactly. And when we look at how often severe reactions actually happen, large epidemiologic analyses show that the annual incidence of food-induced anaphylaxis in kids is between 30 and 70 cases per 100,000 children every year.
Okay, so what does that look like on a national scale?
Well, in the U.S. child population, which is around 73 million, that translates to approximately 20,000 to 40,000 emergency room visits every single year, just for food-induced anaphylaxis.
Wait, 20,000 to 40,000?
Yeah.
So we're talking about tens of thousands of frantic trips to the ER.
Yeah, food allergy is actually the leading cause of anaphylaxis treated in pediatric emergency departments. I mean, deaths are rare. They're estimated at fewer than 100 per year across all age groups. But the severe, life-threatening events are literally a daily occurrence in hospitals across the country.
Okay, keep that number in your head. Learner, 20,000 to 40,000 emergency visits a year for food. Now, let's pivot to the vaccines. The source notes that these are monitored strictly, but how does that monitoring actually work in the real world?
Well, unlike food allergies, which just sort of happen out in the wild, vaccine reactions are continuously tracked through massive federal systems.
Right.
You have the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, or VAERS, which is an open reporting system. But more importantly, you have the Vaccine Safety Data Link, or VSD.
Can you break down the VSD for us? Because I think people just assume doctors are, like, casually self-reporting issues on a clipboard.
Right, no, it's way more advanced than that. The VSD is active surveillance. It links the electronic health records of millions of patients across multiple large healthcare organizations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it doesn't rely on someone remembering to fill out a form. It uses computer algorithms to actively scan medical records for statistical blips.
So it's automatic.
Completely. If a child gets a vaccine on a Tuesday and shows up in an ER with anaphylaxis on Wednesday, the system flags it automatically. We are actively hunting for any sign of adverse reactions.
Okay, so with all that intense algorithm-driven surveillance looking at millions of doses, what is the actual rate of vaccine anaphylaxis?
According to a massive VSD study from 2016, the rate is 1.3 cases of anaphylaxis per 1 million vaccine doses.
1.3 per million. That is, that's incredibly low.
It really is.
Out of the roughly 30 to 40 million pediatric vaccine doses administered annually in the U.S., how many cases does that translate to nationwide?
Approximately 30 to 50 cases of vaccine-related anaphylaxis per year.
Let's put those side by side. 20,000 to 40,000 serious reactions to food,
Right.
compared to 30 to 50 serious reactions to vaccines.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, both of these are IG-mediated immune reactions.
Oh, before we move on, IG-mediated. For those of us who haven't taken high school biology in a while,
Right.
what exactly is IgE, and why does it matter that both reactions share it?
Sure. Immunoglobulin E, or IgE, is a type of antibody. You can think of it as your body's overzealous alarm system.
Okay.
In some people, this alarm system misidentifies a totally harmless protein, like a peanut protein, or maybe a tiny trace of egg protein in a vaccine, as a deadly parasite.
Oh, I see.
So it pulls the fire alarm, flooding the body with histamine, which causes the swelling, the hives, and the restricted airways that we call anaphylaxis.
So it is the exact same biological fire alarm ringing in both scenarios.
Exactly the same. And both are highly treatable with epinephrine. But the fire alarm goes off for food hundreds to thousands of times more often than it does for vaccines.
And think about the context of where those alarms go off, too.
Mm-hmm.
If a child has a severe food reaction, it might happen at a birthday party, or at a park, or in a school cafeteria where emergency meds might not even be immediately on hand.
Right, it's unpredictable.
But a vaccine is given in a highly controlled medical setting with trained staff and emergency medications literally drawn up and ready. The safety net is just infinitely stronger.
It is, and the source notes that nearly all of those 30 to 50 annual vaccine anaphylaxis cases recover fully with prompt treatment in that clinic setting. Fatalities are extraordinarily rare.
Now, our source is careful to point out, and we should be too, that this does not minimize food allergies at all.
No, not at all. They are very serious.
Right. But when someone is accepting everyday food exposure without a second thought, while literally losing sleep over a vaccine reaction, the relative risk comparison is vital.
It's all about context.
Yeah. So having established that the immediate severe reactions are incredibly rare, let's move to the next logical fear parents have. Even if one shot is safe, what about the stack of shots?
Ah, yes. The too many too soon dilemma.
I have to admit, when you actually look at a baby getting 3 or 4 shots at once, it really does look like an assault on their tiny system. Intuitively, it just feels like too much payload for a 2-month-old. How can we be sure it's not?
Well, it's a visual bias, right? We see the physical number of syringes, we see the volume of liquid, and we equate that with the burden on the immune system.
Makes sense that we would.
It does, but immunologically speaking, that's not how it works at all.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Our source brings up a comparison between the vaccine schedule in 1980 and the schedule today.
Yes, I love this comparison.
The data basically sets up a perfect technology analogy. So think about computers in the 1980s. If you wanted to carry around a lot of data, you needed physical space. It was heavy, it was clunky.
Like carrying around a giant desktop tower.
Exactly. But today, the modern childhood vaccine schedule actually has fewer total antigens than the 1980 schedule, even though there are technically more physical shots.
Yes.
It's exactly like how today you can carry a handful of modern, lightweight flash drives that hold terabytes of data versus lugging around a heavy stack of physical encyclopedias back in 1980. The actual data load on the immune system is significantly lighter now than it was 40 years ago.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. And to understand why, we really have to define what an antigen is.
Go for it.
An antigen is essentially a biological mugshot of the germ. It's the specific microscopic part of the bacteria or virus that the immune system recognizes and builds antibodies against.
Okay, so it's just the identifying information.
Exactly. And modern vaccine manufacturing has become incredibly precise. In 1980, the whole cell pertussis vaccine contained over 3,000 different antigens. They basically just ground up the whole bacteria and put the entire encyclopedia into the shot.
Wow, 3,000 in just one shot.
Yeah. But today, the acellular pertussis vaccine contains just 3 to 5 purified antigens. We just hand the immune system the specific flash drive of data it actually needs to learn from.
So the physical volume of liquid or the number of pokes has nothing to do with the actual immunological workload.
Nothing at all. And to put that workload into context, babies are not born into a sterile bubble.
Right.
The moment they exit the birth canal, they are colonized by bacteria on their skin, viruses in the air, environmental microbes, and food proteins. Their immune systems are independently responding to thousands of antigens every single day.
The text cites a really famous 2002 immunologic analysis from pediatrics by Dr. Paul Offit and his colleagues. What did they find about the infant immune system's actual capacity?
Oh, this is fascinating. Based on the capacity of an infant's B-cell repertoire, they estimated that a baby could theoretically respond to 10,000 vaccines at once without overwhelming their immune system.
Wait, B-cell repertoire. Let's translate that for those of us who haven't looked at a biology textbook recently.
Good call.
Yeah.
Think of your infant's immune system as a massive, unassigned standing army. B cells are the soldiers whose specific job is to manufacture antibodies.
Okay, got the army visual.
Right. A baby's bloodstream contains billions of these naive, blank slate B cells just waiting to be handed a target. Dr. Offit's team calculated the number of B cells in the blood, the amount of antibodies they can produce, and the number of cells required to respond to a single vaccine.
And what did the math say?
The math shows that an infant has enough blank slate immune cells to comfortably process 10,000 different vaccine antigens simultaneously without ever running out of resources.
10,000 at once. That just highlights how incredibly powerful the infant immune system naturally is.
It really does. So when the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, the AAP, and the CDC design the schedule, they know the immune system has plenty of bandwidth. From a pure biology standpoint, spacing out the shots does not meaningfully reduce the load at all.
But okay, if I'm a parent, and you've just convinced me that my kid's immune system has the bandwidth, I still might think, well, why rush? Let's just space them out to be cautious. We'll do one shot a month instead of 3 at once.
Right, that feels safer.
Yeah, surely that's safer, right? It just feels gentler.
This raises an important question, and it's one researchers have taken very seriously. Is an alternative, spaced-out schedule actually safer?
And is it?
No. The source cites a 2010 review in Pediatrics by Glanz and colleagues alongside extensive studies by H. Weiss and Jane. They looked at hundreds of thousands of children and found absolutely zero scientific evidence supporting alternative vaccine schedules as safer.
Zero evidence.
None. They found no decreased risk of neurodevelopmental disorders or autoimmune diseases by spacing things out.
You know, parents who space vaccines out often say they are trying to avoid side effects. They think fewer shots equals less fever or less fussiness.
That points to a fundamental misunderstanding of what a side effect actually is in this context. A mild fever or a sore leg isn't a sign of immune overload or toxicity.
What is it then?
It is the visible proof that the immune system is working exactly as it should. It's the physiological equivalent of hearing loud construction noise when you hire a crew to build a house. You want to hear the hammers, it means the house is getting built.
Ah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, so spacing the vaccines out doesn't reduce the chance of those normal immune responses. It just subjects the child to fever and soreness on 6 different weekends instead of 2.
Oof. And that actually introduces a whole new set of hidden dangers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If spacing them out offers zero safety benefits, what is the actual biological harm of delaying?
The harm is time. Delaying vaccines extends the window of vulnerability. The standard schedule is not just some random calendar. It is precisely timed to protect children before they hit their peak vulnerability.
Right.
It's time to kick in exactly when maternal antibodies begin to fade.
Let's get into the weeds on that. How do maternal antibodies factor into the timing? Why is that the ticking clock?
Well, during the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, a mother passes her own antibodies through the placenta to the baby. It's like a temporary set of rented armor.
Rented armor, I like that.
Yeah, but because the baby didn't make those antibodies themselves, they don't last. They naturally degrade and fade away over the first few months of life.
So they're losing protection.
Exactly. The vaccine schedule is explicitly designed to train the baby's own immune system to forge its own armor just as the rented armor is falling apart. If you intentionally wait until the child is older, you are quite literally marching them through a minefield completely unprotected.
And the source gives some really sobering examples of the diseases waiting in that minefield. Pertussis, or whooping cough, has its highest mortality rate in infants under 2 months old.
It's devastating.
Haemophilus influenza type B, or HIBIC, can cause severe meningitis specifically in infants. And pneumococcal disease has the highest rates of invasive, dangerous infection in children under 2 years old.
So if you wait for the immune system to get stronger before vaccinating, you miss the window entirely.
You're unprotected when you need it most.
Exactly. And practically speaking, alternative schedules also require way more healthcare visits.
Which means more time sitting in waiting rooms surrounded by sick kids.
Yes. Plus a higher risk of under-immunization because, life gets busy and appointments get missed. And crucially, it means more total needle exposures, which is highly stressful for the child.
Okay, so the infant schedule is a highly precise map based on fading maternal armor. But this philosophy of timing is everything isn't just for babies.
Not at all.
It completely explains one of the most debated vaccines for older kids, which is the HPV vaccine. The goal of the schedule is to target specific windows of exposure.
Right. The HPV vaccine is recommended at 11 to 12 years of age. Human papillomavirus is extremely common and is transmitted through intimate skin-to-skin contact.
Right.
By immunizing at 11 or 12, the medical community is ensuring the protection is in place well before the risk of exposure typically begins in later teenage years or early adulthood.
But I know some parents look at their 11-year-old and think, my kid isn't doing anything intimate or risky. I'm just going to wait until they are 16 or 17 to get this one. Why is that biologically a bad idea?
Two major reasons. The first is pure immunology. Clinical data, including reports from the WHO and the CDC, show that younger adolescents, specifically the 9 to 14 age group, actually mount a much stronger immune response to the HPV vaccine than older teens do.
Really?
Yeah, their immune systems generate significantly higher antibody titers.
Okay, what exactly is a titer and why is a 10-year-old better at this than a 16-year-old?
A titer is essentially a measurement of concentration. It's a way of counting exactly how many specific antibodies are floating around in the bloodstream.
Right.
The higher the titer, the stronger the protection. As to why younger kids do it better, around ages 9 to 12, the immune system is in a state of peak biological performance for learning new threats.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can think of it like learning a foreign language. A 10-year-old absorbs a new language much faster and more fluently than a 20-year-old because their brain is primed for it.
That makes a lot of sense.
The adolescent immune system is similarly primed. In fact, it's so robust in that younger window that they only need a 2-dose schedule, whereas older teens and adults actually require 3 doses to get a similar level of protection.
So it's literally more efficient to do it earlier. What is the second reason?
The second reason is logistical risk. If you wait until later adolescence, you run the very real risk that vaccination happens after exposure has already occurred. Once you're exposed to a strain of HPV, the vaccine cannot clear that existing infection. It's a shield, not a cure. Plus, waiting historically results in lower completion rates. Teens get busy, they don't go to the pediatrician for well checks as often as 11-year-olds do, and they just miss out on cancer-preventing protection.
It's that same strategic map. Protect before the vulnerability window opens, while the immune system is perfectly primed to give the best response.
Exactly.
Whether it's a 2-month-old facing pertussis or a 12-year-old building a shield against future HPV-related cancers, the schedule is an evidence-based roadmap.
When we anchor our decisions in population-level, peer-reviewed data, rather than individual scary anecdotes, the path forward becomes much clearer and, honestly, much less anxiety-inducing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's summarize the journey we've taken today. We learned that while everyday food feels safe, the biological reality is that anaphylaxis from a food allergy is tens of thousands of times more likely to land a child in the ER than a vaccine reaction.
Staggering difference.
We dismantled the too many too soon myth by understanding that today's highly refined vaccines deliver a fraction of the antigens they used to, and that an infant's B-cell repertoire is robust enough to handle 10,000 vaccines at once.
Incredible biology.
Finally, we learned that delaying the schedule offers zero safety benefits. It doesn't prevent normal immune responses like fevers. It just leaves kids dangerously unprotected during their peak windows of vulnerability.
The math heavily favors the safety of the evidence-based schedule.
That brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today, learner. Think about how this applies beyond medicine.
Oh, this is a great point.
We've seen how our brains completely miscalculate risk when something feels unnatural or clinical versus when it feels routine. We instinctively fear the controlled medical clinic more than the invisible dangers at our own kitchen table. What else in your life are you judging with faulty Stone Age intuition instead of looking at the actual data?
It's a great question.
Maybe it's how you invest your money, fearing a sudden, dramatic stock market drop while safely losing your purchasing power to routine inflation in a bank account.
Right.
Maybe it's how you navigate data privacy, terrified of a new smart speaker, but routinely handing over your entire life history to a familiar social media app. Are you avoiding the safe, mathematically proven path, because it looks intimidating, while walking right into everyday hazards just because they feel familiar?
It is a cognitive blind spot that affects almost every major decision we make. Once you see it, you start recognizing it everywhere.
Keep that blind spot in mind the next time a headline makes you anxious. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we will catch you next.